Hello everyone. Today, I am going to explain a movie called The Lair. Our movie begins with Captain Sinclair flying with her partner in the Afghan airspace. And before they knew it's a big-ass missile logs on their location and they try to evade it as much as possible, but they both end up ejecting from their jets. The insurgents that shot them down see them landing with their parachutes and go to their area. Sinclair's partner is shot when he tries to take down some of the insurgents. But Sinclair, the very accurate marksman, takes out most of the insurgents, and she manages to get away from the hot zone. So she starts making her way through the Afghan desert. She tries to call for help, but nobody answers. But unfortunately, the Afghan insurgents who know the territory so well have been tracking her all along. And before she knew it, they cornered her into this bizarre area where there was a Russian bunker. For a second there, she held her own with her AK-47. But this guy had a bazooka, and even though he missed her, she was not waiting for him to reload, and the bazooka blew open the door to the bunker, and since it was her only way out, she decided to get inside. The bunker to hide the bunker, is it really what you would imagine, is not small at all. It's actually a big-ass bunker with, like, tunnels and stuff, and Sinclair gets inside and tries to navigate through it, but everything was written in Russian. And the place really gave off a creepy vibe as she was going through the facility. She finds this photographic recording device, which she takes. And meanwhile, as Sinclair was taking her tour, the insurgents have also made their way inside the bunker, to kill her. And once they go down the tunnels and they start looking for Sinclair, they make it to a room where inside it looks like there were men floating in a vat full of some liquid. Sinclair uses the opportunity to ambush them, and another firefight ensues. But when nobody really noticed was that during the firefight, a bunch of bullets blew up one of the vats, and whatever it was that was inside came out. And this guy thought, whatever this thing is probably dead. I'm going to cover it up with a piece of plastic. But he was wrong. It's alive. It's a monster, and it kills him, and just wasn't clear. Thought that she made it out as the monster that was inside the bunker. Takes all the insurgents one by one. One of the soldiers catches Kate by the foot, but before he does anything to Sinclair, the monster takes off his face. And as soon as she made it out, Sinclair saw the monster very clearly, and she was incredibly terrified and physically injured, and was not ready to face the driver of the insurgents who was pointing a gun at her. But she was lucky enough that the driver himself got really creeped out by what he saw, and he just ran away after the driver ran away. Kate gives herself an adrenaline shot and then makes her way through the Afghan desert yet again. This big-ass Hummer car, operated by Americans, it literally crashes into her. They take her with them when they find out that she's actually a captain and on their side. So they drive her to their quote-unquote base, which happens to be a really shitty place where they just hang out. And there she meets Finch, who tells her that they can't really help her evacuate as they're still low on resources and they have a lot of responsibility in the area. Kate tells Finch what she saw in the bunker and to go and investigate it with some of his men. But he tells her that he's not going to risk anyone. And you guys remember that guy that just ran away instead of just shooting Sinclair? Yeah, apparently they found him wandering in the desert and they brought him back to their base. Finch also confiscates the device that Kate took from that bunker and says that you hold on to it until he talks to his superiors. After getting really pissed off by Finch, the base is a combination of military regions, and a bit Sinclair goes to the very small tent clinic to get patched up, and she describes what she saw. She manages to write down something that she saw in the bunker, and that driver that was caught was also in the tent, and he tells them that what she wrote says, "Do not open." And later that night, as the soldiers were patrolling, they were creeped out by the story, and they were very cautious. The monster taking out the soldiers, one by one. It's nighttime. They can't see ships, even though they do have night vision goggles. The monster was super fast, and it was also almost impossible to kill. One of these monsters gets inside the tent where Sinclair and Kabir were staying, and it almost got Sinclair before Kabir cut off its tongue. But none of this really mattered, as the monsters were very fast and strong, and the soldiers were outnumbered. they hold together in the trenches, and who constructs Lafayette and the rest of the soldiers to fall back to the armory, while he and the others go to save French. Lafayette and the rest of the soldiers find out that the armory is actually empty. Everyone who survived the attack gets inside the armory and locks themselves. So come daytime, they get out of the armory, and they find out that the soldiers that were killed were taken away by the monsters, and lucky for them, there was one monster that they killed that was just left there. And after a really grotesque scene of cutting open the monster's body, Wilkes discovers that the internal organs of this thing is actually human. And as everybody was incredibly confused as to how a human being looks like that, Finch wakes up and explains everything. Apparently, decades ago, there was something that landed from outer space around that area, and the Russians discovered it first and found it to be an alien spacecraft. And the Soviets at the time managed to fuse human DNA with alien DNA. And that is how you have this thing. And it's because the spaceship landed near Afghanistan that the Russians made up a bunch of reasons to invade Afghanistan, as the Soviets wanted the alien technology all for themselves. And you know how we, the audience and everybody in this tent, thinks that this monster is dead. Apparently it wasn't, and it tries to kill everyone, especially Sinclair, before Finch blows himself and the monster to bits with a grenade. They make a plan to go back to the bunker, blow it to bits, and wait for backup to arrive at the base with some equipment. They didn't really have a lot of ammunition left, but they had some C4 and a bunch of clips. But their plan goes horribly wrong when Hook is pulled down into the tunnels by one of the monsters, and to save him, everyone except for Wilkes goes down to the bunker. And it is then that they discover the giant alien that the Soviets used to merge its DNA with human beings. And as expected, a bunch of the soldiers die. Lafayette's anger gets the better of her, and she gets eaten by the alien. Wilkes, who was outside and was supposed to pull their elevator with his car, gets ambushed by the insurgents. And to top things off, their radio channel from HQ comes on informing them to evacuate the area in 20 minutes, as there was an incoming attack that was about to decimate the entire sector. The insurgents finally catch up to Wilkes, and just before they detach his head from his body and put it on YouTube, who can manage to get out of the bunker using the elevator as a pulley, and they manage to save Wilkes and take out the rest of the insurgents and drive away using their car before the US military covers its ass by nuking the entire area. And as the movie wraps up, 3 of the survivors make it out, and Sinclair shows Hook that you actually got the device from the bunker, which had all the evidence of what the Soviets did. Movie ends here.